The Three Musketeers, radio play 16/4/2000 Tweedestinate Urider to 24, by Lewis Critchley.
Read by Lewis Critchley. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, locales, and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. This work is provided solely for the personal enjoyment of the reader. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or transmission of this work in any form without the express permission of the copyright holder is strictly prohibited and may result in legal action. Any unauthorized use of the materials contained herein is at the reader's own risk.
Chapter 1. Eerie wind howls through the stillness of a dark forest at night. Rustling branches and the distant howl of a wolf can be heard. Deep within the ancient woods of Blackhaven, an air of dread permeates the shadows under the pale moonlight, for in this place, where gnarled trees probe the starry sky like skeletal fingers, a malevolent force has sent out. Fra form bestämt och såna helmet up washing from its uneasy slumber. A twig snaps, followed by muffled footsteps. Young man, panting, whispering, "They're after me. I can't let them find me. Not here." Tamor fled recklessly through the twisted woodland, his heart pounding with each ragged breath. Behind him, the hunters relentlessly gave chase, spurred on by the promise of bounty from their unmerciful master, a young man, gasping, "I didn't steal it. I swear. Lord Valmore has made a grave mistake." Beat. Or perhaps it is I who have been mistaken about him all along. Set up. Twigs and leaves crunch underfoot as three figures in dark cloaks emerge, swords drawn. Hunter 1. They couldn't have gone far. Find the thief and return what he has taken. Hunter 2. Lord Valmore wants the boy alive. For now. He'll have his reckoning soon enough. Young man whimpering from his hiding spot. Why is this happening? A cold wind picks up, shaking the branches above. Poor Tamor had once looked up to Lord Valmore, the supreme ruler of the Valley Kingdoms, with admiration and hope. But now he saw the truth. Valmore's lust for power and wealth knew no bounds. The supposedly benevolent leader had become utterly consumed by darkness, accusing innocent subjects of false crimes to feed his own greed, and Tamor had become the latest pawn, framed for theft most foul. A young man's thoughts pained. "Father, mother, if only you could see the tyranny that has befallen our lands. I don't know what to do." The howling wind crescendos, nearly masking the sounds of the hunters closing in. Hunter 3, gruff. "Over there, by the twisted oak, I saw movement." Young man, stifled gasp. A sword clangs against a fallen branch. Hunter 2, "Come out, boy. There's nowhere left to run." Young man's thoughts, frantic. The Druids Grove. If I can make it there, maybe. Just maybe. He scrambles out of his hiding spot and dashes away, prompting shouts from the pursuing hunters. Swords clash against branches and undergrowth as the chase continues. Fueled by adrenaline and the desperate hope for sanctuary, Tamor fled with every ounce of his being towards the one place he might find aid, the ancient Druids Grove. Long had the stories persisted of the mystic powers harboured within that hallowed ground, protected by an ancient order. If any could shield him from Valmore's corrupt grasp, it was they. A distant ethereal humming drifts through the forest as Tamor nears a clearing. The sounds of the pursuit seem to fade away into the night. Young man, panting, relieved. I've made it, praise the Ancient Ones. I've found the grove at last." In the centre of the clearing, a ring of towering stone monoliths stood proud against the backdrop of twinkling stars. Tamor's eyes were drawn to their celestial radiance, and he felt a warmth spread across his weary soul. The warmth of hope reborn. The hum intensifies as Tamor steps toward the stone circle, the ground seeming to thrum with mystic energy. The young man, awed by the old gods. The legends were true. I can feel it. The power of the Druid ways courses through this place. Druid's voice, echoing from all directions. Welcome, traveller, though I fear the path that led you here was one of strife and misery. Tamor startles, frantically looking around for the source of the voice. Young man, alarmed. Who goes there? Show yourself. The Druid's voice, gentle yet powerful. Peace, child. I mean you no harm. I am Aridor, guardian of the ancient grove, and the last of the old Druids. You have found your way to our sacred refuge on this night. Young man, wary yet hopeful. Then you can help me, please, sir. I have been wrongfully accused by the tyrant Valmore. He seeks to harm me for a crime I did not commit. Aridor, sombre. Alas, the shadow that has fallen over these lands is known to me. Lord Valmore's wickedness has only grown with each passing year. The ancient balance has been disrupted by his vile hunger. Young man, you know of his cruelty. Then you must help shield me from his unjust wrath. I beg of you. Aridor, considering, to defy one as mighty as Valmore would be to invite grave consequences, not just for myself, but for the grove and all who dwell within its borders. You ask much of me, Tamor, son of Eldon. Tamor stiffens, realizing the ancient Druid knows his identity. Young man, astonished. You know my name and my father's, but how— Aridor, gently, I have watched over your family's lineage through generations uncounted. You come from a noble stock of warriors and keepers of the old ways, my child, and on this eve, I fear those ways shall be needed most profoundly. A pulse of energy causes the stones to glow brilliantly for a moment. Aridor, you stand now at a great crossroads, Tamor. The choice ahead of you shall mark the first step on a journey greater than you can yet imagine. Will you hide away in fear, allowing darkness to spread further over these lands? Or will you take up arms against the encroaching shadow and fight for the light? Young man, hesitant, I do not know if I'm prepared to defy a lord as mighty as Valmore. What hope could one young man have against such power? Aridor, resolute. More hope than you may realize, should you find the courage to walk the truer path. You need not face this burden alone, Tamor, for in you burns the spirit of an ancient legacy, one that can yet rally the forces of light against Valmore's corruption. Tamor's expression hardens with determination. Young man, then I will do whatever must be done to restore honor and freedom to these lands. I will take up arms to combat Valmore's darkness. Aridor, solemn yet proud, a decision that shall shape the fate of kingdoms, made selflessly in this sacred circle of stones. You have set your feet upon a perilous trail, Tamor of the Eldon bloodline. But take heart, you shall not walk that trail alone. Break into two. A rumbling ensues, shaking the trees and causing pebbles to dance across the earth. Young man, unalarmed. What trickery is this? Aridor, calm, peace, Tamor. You are about to receive allies most ancient and powerful. For in days of light's greatest peril, the Druids would call upon their greatest guardians, warriors of living wood and stone, to stand at our side. Creaking and groaning noises build in volume as three towering figures slowly emerge from the ground, two vaguely humanoid tree creatures and a hulking stone giant. Aridor, behold, the oaken gourd and a golem of the Druids' craft. These stalwart sentinels shall aid you on your quest to overthrow Valmore's terrible reign. The tree creatures stretch out their enormous wooden limbs, while the stone golem pounds the ground with its mighty fists, shaking the very earth. Young man, in awe by the ancient gods, they are more than mere legends. You wield power beyond reckoning, great Druid. Aridor, humbly, the true power lies in the forces of nature herself, Tamor. I am but a humble shepherd to her grandmasters of earth and sky and sea. We Druids have held our sacred covenant to protect the primal balance for ages immemorial, and it is that balance which now hangs in the direst of jeopardies. Valmore's vile perversion of the natural order must be undone before all is lost. The stone golem lumbers over and, offers an open hand to Tamor. Aridor. Unreed, the stone-bound, shall be your bulwark against Valmore's armies, shielding you from their swords and arrows with his nigh impenetrable form, while Branaoch and Thorvir of the Oaken Council shall lend their strength and bow their sheltering boughs to aid your cause. Young man, with growing confidence, the forces of light awaken this night to combat the growing shadow, and I am to be their beacon, a humble woodsman's son. Aridor, with weighty significance. Search your spirit deeply, Tamor of Eldon, and you shall find the burning embers of a great legacy, one which Valmore has forgotten to his ruinous folly. Take up this heroic mantle proudly, and let its radiant fire be reborn under your steadfast care. Young man, emboldened by resolve. Then, on this hallowed ground, before these ancient wardens of nature, I vow to see Valmore's twisted grasp over our lands undone. No matter the cost, no matter what trials may lay ahead, I shall fight to restore balance and freedom. Aridor, the stones thrumming with power. So, let it be spoken. So, let it be wrought. Behold, Tamor of Eldon, as the great onyx blade is reforged in your grasp, an edge of purifying light to sunder the encroaching darkness. A great tremor rocks the grove, sending Tamor stumbling back as a massive dark metallic blade erupts from the heart of the stone circle. It hovers in the air, pulsing with eldritch energy. Aridor, take up the onyx blade, heir of the old bloodline, and let your quest to vanquish Valmore's evil begin. The path ahead shall be fraught with peril, but the hope of these lands now rests upon your bloodied shoulders. As an orchestral swell rises, Tamor strides forward, eyes blazing with newfound purpose. He grasps the hilt of the ethereal blade, its power coursing through his being. Tamor, echoing with conviction, then let the shadow tremble at my coming. I am the light reborn, and Valmore's cruelty shall be no more. And so began the great quest of Tamor of Eldon to overthrow the tyrant Valmore and restore light to the valley kingdoms. Newly emboldened with the onyx blade and powerful allies in the ancient Druids Grove wardens, he turned his sights towards mustering a force capable of toppling Valmore's iron grip over the realms. Sounds of a lively tavern. Laughter, clinking mugs, raucous singing. Tamor, raising his voice, "Good people, citizens of the village of Keridon's Glen, I call for your attention." The tavern noise dies down as Tamor stands atop a table, onyx blade in hand, and his golem and Oakengard allies standing imposingly behind him. Drunk villager slurring, "Is this a play or something? Ho. Nice props you got there, son." Village woman, "Who is this fool carrying on so?" "My kids need their sleep tonight." Tamor, firmly, "I am Tamor of Eldon, heir to the noble bloodline, a new champion of the ancient Druid ways. I have been wrongly accused by the tyrant Valmore, but it is he who must now face justice for his merciless rule over our lands." Murmurs of surprise and disbelief ripple through the crowded tavern. Old crone, cackling. "He's got the look of the old ones, he does. Wild and fierce, like the wolf lords of legend." Coughing fit. Village woman, dismissive. "Old Mara's been hitting the poppy ale again. You're insane, boy." Speaking of wolf lords and ancient bloodlines. A young villager, awed. "Did you see his sword, Mum? It was like it were made of night itself. Tony dik meisas reikeris tadlio elnelse." Aulidus blaive baubi beta. Tamor, raising the onyx blade high, this is no mere tale, good villagers. I have been called by the last of the ancient Druids to combat the darkness that has befallen our lands under Valmore's rule. And I aim to raise an army of united freemen to fight at my side, an army of the righteously indignant. The tavern falls eerily silent for a long moment. Then, brawny villager, guffawing loudly. Ha! Is that all? You bring us some trees and pet rocks to fight Valmore's legions. More laughter. Village woman, scoffing. What a jester! Peddling fables of lost bloodlines and promises to overthrow the mightiest warlord these lands have ever known, with trees and rocks. Tamor shouts over the jeers. No, more than fables, truth sewn with the thread of destiny. I tell you, good villagers, the time has come to break the vile shackles that Valmore's cruelty has shackled you with. On this night, you can choose to cower no more. The crowd's mockery swells like a crashing wave. Drunk, slurring loudly. The boy's daft, that's what he is. Dafter than a sack of hammers. Okay. A very tedious walls themselves. Ready to starve and freeze and be slaughtered by bandits. That Valmore's protection, you crazy whelp. Tamor, fuming, clenching the onyx blade's hilt tightly. Then you have all made your choice, to remain blind to the true darkness that festers in these lands, because you fear the shadows it casts. So be it. I had hoped to give you all a choice in the struggle to come, but now I see there is only one path ahead. Thorvir the Oaken, deep, creaking voice. You would use force against these frightened people, Tamor of Eldon. They lash out only from their place of chained fear and ignorance. Forwadani sissens ben etesideis kachesis espus bitoch. Sao by Vidadue Nadiusta Roads Tamor whirls on the tree wardens, contorted with frustration. Tamor, what other path is there? You heard their scorn, their cowardice. They would rather remain Valmore's cattle, fattening themselves on scraps than fight for true freedom. I cannot reason with the unreasonable, Thorvir. You speak as one who has yet to tend the seedlings of change, Tamor. They fear because the roots of another way have not yet taken purchase in their hearts. Water them with patience, that they might blossom into brave blossoms in the sun's light. Oenrid the Stonebound, rumbling, the ways of soil and seed have never been more apparent to me, earth saplings. This one struggles to see past his sapling's reach. Tamor, scowling at the golem. You think to lecture me on restraint and vision? Need I remind you that you are but servants in my cause? Oenrid's voice takes on the timbre and weight of deep stone grinding. Wenrid, I am no servant, woodsman's son. I am ancient beyond your calculating. A living remnant of when the world's waking yearned for consciousness to bear witness. Your cause is merely an eon's breath in my grander saga. Show respect, lest I be roused to remind you of your place. A tense pause as Tamor's chest heaves with fury, and the crowd in the tavern murmurs in bewilderment at the strange exchange. Braneoch, soothingly, peace, Brother Stone. The woodsman's son speaks from a place of blade logic in this matter. He has yet to fully hear the harmonies of the great song. Thorvir, knowingly, aye. His spirit is that of an acorn fallen from its mighty oak, the kernel of greatness sown in fertile soil, but forced to send its first roots through an embankment of fear and ignorance. With nurturing and time, the bark of wisdom shall take shape around his verdant ambition. Tamor, deflating, utterly lost. I do not understand your riddles and byways, ancient ones. My blood burns with a spirited need for action, yet you would have me dally with this indecisive rabble. Braneoch, sagely. Not dally, Tamor, but cultivate. You cannot simply grasp at the low-hanging fruit without nourishing the branches that bore it. Fun and games. And so Tamor's noble call to arms was met with laughter, scorn, and hostility from the fearful common folk of Cerridon's Glen. Yet the ancient wardens at his side counselled patience over reckless haste, a frustrating proposition for the impassioned Eldon heir, for the path ahead would require him to win over more than just strong swords to his cause. The scene transitions to a lively festival in a town square. Music, laughter, the sounds of entertainers and merchants. Young boy's voice, "Look, Mama, look, it's the wild man with the big friends again." Tamor strides forth boldly, onyx blade catching the sunlight as Thorvir, Branaoch, and Oenrid loom imposingly behind. Village mother shielding her children behind her skirts. "Saints preserve me. He's come back," Tamor loudly, trying to project over the din. "Good people of Oak Valley, hear me once more. I come bearing no ill will, but the greatest of missions, to free these lands from the vile clutches of the tyrant warlord Valmore." A hush falls over the square as he bellows his proclamation. Staring faces turn his way, parents clutching their children close. Old peddler spitting at Tamor's feet. "Aye, you've been here before with your tall tales, son. We want no part of your foolish war against Valmore's order." Village man, "He'll bring the Lord's legions down upon us, for certain. Send him and his monsters away." Crofter's wife will cut shrilly, "Kill them, I say. Kill them before they turn our town into another battlefield." The mood sours rapidly, growing more hostile and ugly. Angry shouts and insults are hurled at Tamor as the square devolves into chaos. Branaoch, warningly, "Peace! Angry mortals. We mean you no harm this day." But his words seem to incite further fury, as rotten fruits and stones begin pelting them from increasingly unruly throngs in the square. Oenrid, grumbling lowly, their fear has unshod their sense. Hatred's sparks catch quickly in such dry fields of hopeless resignation. Tamor whirls at the caustic stone giant, deflecting a cabbage off the onyx blade's flat edge. Tamor angrily, "I told you. They are too craven to listen. I'll not waste more pleas upon deaf ears," hefting his sword. "Stand aside, noble wardens." "Cut my path through these miserable fools." He begins straining forward, Josset, and blade ready, only for Thorvir to extend a massive oaken limb to block his way. Thorvir, reprovingly, "This is not the way, Tamor of Eldon. They know not the true embers sown within your spirit, and lash out at its brightness. You must stoke more radiant still the light of your cause, not dim it with fruitless bloodshed." Tamor, incensed, "I have listened to enough of your riddles and wisdom. Blood has been spilled this day with their assault. I am owed violence in kind. Out of my path." He swings the onyx blade in a shimmering arc, fully intending to hack through the towering oak sentry, only for the blade to impact Thorvir's bark with a bone-jarring shudder, deflecting wide as the ancient tree laughs. An elder's wheezy chuckle. Thorvir, wryly. A swing, born of youthful passion and impatience. "Little one, your edge may be honed by mystical flame, but it shall not be the flames of conflict that win you these villagers. Fealty and trust." Narrator Tamor stumbles back, utterly stunned, that his mighty blade failed to so much as nick the oaken warden's rough-hewn form. Thorvir, wisely, "We were old when your ancestors were but feral pups, scrabbling in the dust of endless wars and petty vendettas that no longer echo even in dream. All things of sword's reckoning shall part like brambles before our eldritch union with the great mother's bows." Branoch, solemnly, "As the babe fears a shadow but takes comfort in a banked hearth's light, so too must these fearful villagers be shown the radiant warmth of your quest, not its fell edge. Therein lies the true seed of grander alliances yet to come." Tamor is forced to stand down, though his grip remains tightly clenched on the onyx blade's hilt, as detritus and insults continue to pelt him from the baying crowd. Old peddler Mocky. Mockingly. Look at him. Then. Boy, thinks his shinny sabr'll turn us all against Lord Valmore, Crofter's wife. He's just a vagabond, carrying on with them fell demons at his side. Looking for a bit of glory and importance, no doubt. Village man. Get you done, not? Yeah, gone, boy. Before we send the guard to deal with your kind. His jaw tightening with sheer frustration, Tamor could only watch helplessly as the townsfolk's hatred and derision intensified with each passing moment. How could he sway their hearts when all they saw was absurdity and danger when they looked upon him? Onrid, grumbling, a bitter harvest this, but one that is too often reaped from fields choked with weeds of fear for cycles untold. Tamor, struggling not to storm off. Then how? How do I convince them, if I am forbidden from showing my hand? I cannot reason with the unreasonable, as you said yourselves. Branach, words may fail to sow the seeds, young Tamor, but perhaps a demonstration of the greater harmonies you now hold the threads to might open their eyes and ears to your righteousness. Tamor, hopelessly, I don't know what you meme. Before he can finish his protest, Thorvir shifts his weight powerfully, sending deep vibrations through the old oak's roots and into the very earth of the square itself. Instantly, every scrap of debris and soil not rooted down begins to drift and hover upwards, with faint wisps of pale green light. Peddler, quaking, whoa, what in the... Whatever is this? Thorvir, serenely, we show you now that the ways of leaf and soil, river and stone are not beyond summoning in these latter days and ages fearful villagers. Branach, ethereally, yes, we show you that the lost magics and art of the Druid's hand still hold fertile ground in the hearts of those who would dare dream of their verdant return. Onrid, his voice carrying the rumble of deep bedrock, and that our presence here is sworn to he who would beckon our might back into realms that now lie fallow and overgrown with petty warlords' ambitions. Narrator, but a silencer falls over the... Hovering storm of earth and scattered objects takes on a swirling spiral formation of its own accord. Onrid booms says something guttural and primal, and the dust cyclone begins to shape itself with increasing intricacy. Towering spires and buttresses, delicately sculpted gardens and crenellated towers, all rendered in mid-air by the mystic currents. Tamor watches, utterly transfixed as an entire ephemeral castle district manifests before his and the villagers' eyes. At its centre hovers an immense stone edifice, emblazoned with a proud oak tree sigil, the ancient seat of kings in the storied days when the Druids' power was undisputed alongside the old monarchs. Onrid rumbles thunderously as the spiralling vision strengthens in brilliance, its ghostly emerald radiance tinging the whole square and trembling every window in the towering illusion. Onrid, profoundly, let this mere fragrance of greater splendours snare your imaginations for a moment. Short-sighted ones, and know that the oath-bearer who now walks amongst you is sworn to restore this lustre to your tired and crumbling legacies. Branach and Thorvir intone strange creaking syllables in tandem with Onrid, and the phantasmic castle seems to solidify and spring into full, vibrant life. Tiny figures of spectral citizens bustle about its ramparts, while emerald streams and gardens bloom forth below. It all hangs weightlessly in the town square before dissipating like a shredded morning mist in the space of a few heartbeats, leaving the villagers utterly gobsmacked. Tamor is no less stunned, his jaw slightly slack, an onyx blade all but forgotten in his hand. For the first time, He has tasted the merest fraction of the impossible wonders and prowess his new allies lay claim to. He looks upon the now star-struck villagers and finally understands the Warden's path. With Owenrid's booming words still reverberating in his soul, Tamor lifts his head high and finds his voice anew. Tamor, my powerfully people of Oak Valley, what you have borne witness to is but an echo of the glory and prosperity I vow to return to these lands. Too long have our village roads and farmsteads languished under the yoke of tyrant lords, who hoard power and riches for themselves, while you eke out meagre livings as little more than serfs. He paces forward, gathering momentum as the townsfolk's eyes remain transfixed in awe and wonder. Tamor, fervently, with the oaken counsel and the primal might of Venrid the Stonebound at my side, I shall break these chains of fear and oppression that Valmore and his ilk have shackled you to, and in their stead I shall raise a vision of sovereign unity, a grand alliance of free folk who need bend no knee to self-appointed kings and generals ever again. A hush descends over the Esamnad villagers, punctuated by a child's gasp of delight. Tamor drinks in the revelation and clarity in their upturned faces, knowing his path is sweeping ever onward. Tamor resolved, too long have you toiled in hopeless resignation, cowering from the hollow bravado of petty warlords like Valmore. I say to you now, throw off these shackles of indentured servitude. Beat your ploughshares into swords and stand beside me as equals, for only together, united as one formidable host under the ancient banners of nature's truest wardens, can we tear down the tyranny that has bled these lands dry. Villagers, murmuring, energized. Did you hear him? He speaks of forging a new realm, where we make our own destines. Poia saxen kakurant Bawokait Fambaraftat Jack Bascots. Caddy and the oven absurdus Weden tak van net son and Bishop Yuki and Yerebanist alderman gruffly stroking his beard. Easy, friends. Easy now. We must think on this carefully before lending ourselves to such lofty promises, no? Village mother, clutching her child close, eyes wide in wonder. But did you not see it? That vision of emerald splendour? If the old stories are rekindled by his strange company, does that not spark hope in the midst of our dismal servitude to Valmore's tacksmen? Tamor senses the shifting tides and presses his newfound advantage. Hazel eyes blazing with conviction as he lifts the onyx blade skyward, its blackened steel edge seeming to drink in the sunlight. Tamor, powerfully. This is the onyx blade, reforged in my grasp by the last of the ancient Druids. It is no mere esoteric. It is the shard of a colossal cosmic blade, bent on restoring the primal balance that Valmore's vile conquest has eroded. He swings the sword in a slow, authoritative arc, its edge thrumming with fell purpose. No sense. Be the harbinger of change to shake these lands from their slumber of oppression. His words hang heavy in the air like a fog rolling off embered fields. The bristling tension from before has palpably eased, replaced with uncertain awe and furtive hope. You need only give me your trust. Your fealty, and I shall show you all the cradle splendours of the old world, reborn under new banners, one realm united in sovereignty, never to cede freedom to the yokes of thrones and castles again. Village man, uncertainly, but how? Valmore's armies are a scourge to outnumber any rebel this realm has yet seen. Village crone, cackling, can you not feel it in the air, you dozy lummox? Change sweeps through this place like a maelstrom. Is it you require more theatre before pledging your heart to this woodsman's cause? She jabs a wizened finger up at Owenrid, who has remained stoically silent through Tamor's emboldened oration. Villager Crone, listen. Listen to what the old stone rumbles forth. Onrid, ancient grinding tones, hearken well to the threads of destiny which now unspool before your waking ken, small folk of oak and field. For my kind's very being is woven from the primordial will of the Great Mother, when first she dreamed of consciousness made flesh. We are the eldritch progeny of that first unfurling awakening. My siblings and I strode these lands when your ancestors were scarcely loping across the high grasses on their bellies. Our footfalls shook the bedrock and levelled the unscalable peaks in those antediluvian days. Owenrid's eyes suddenly erupt with pale green luminescence, bathing his towering stone visage in eldritch light. Owenrid, rumbling power, yet we were compelled by dint of the greater mysteries to divert our destructive vigour into the hallowed roles of wardens and deacons to the natural orders. When the Druidic sovereigns laid the first ceremonial sceptres of oak and hawthorn at our feet, we became loci of terrestrial dominion, bound to the grander harmonies of tide and season. Throughout eons immemorial we stewarded this dulcet equilibrium in quiet solidarity. Hamlets blossomed and perished like the forests they sprang from in the turning of our vigil, while kingdoms rose, ruled, and were weathered down to the merest whispers of myth under our implacable oversight. Needless to say, the assembled villagers are utterly transfixed, mouths agape, as Owenrid summons the weight of aeons into his thunderous pronouncements. Even Tamor finds himself held rapt, utterly overwhelmed by the towering golem's profundities in a way he's never before experienced. Owenrid inexorable. But then strife and imbalance began to set a different, fouler tenor to the natural cadences. The fragile civilizations of each passing epoch no longer found literacy in the songs of our ancients. They lost translation for our primal gospels, and instead sought to war, to defy, to conquer and subjugate. My noble siblings and I rebuffed these incipient imperials at every turn. We turned their armies to rout, shook their keeps into rubble, and visited profane desolation upon every fiefdom until they acceded to restoring Earth's sovereign grace anew. You ask how you shall defy the tyrant Valmore? Owenrid's sudden terrible bark shatters the lull like a thunderclap, causing more than a few spectators to shrink back in shock. Owenrid, all-consuming, look upon me, insects. I am a gargoyle of creation's first spasm into sentient rapture. My lungs exhale the dust of dead stars, and my fists rain such furid devastation that would crack the very world asunder, yet kept jealously in abeyance. Branach and Thorvir chime deep harmonious drones, seeming to augment Owenrid's terrible presence until every stone and grain of soil in the village square seems awash in primordial power. Owenrid, boundless. Your paltry warlords and petty empires, your trivial notions of conquest and acquisition, are but leaves scattered by a tempest when set against the tides I and my sentient brethren command. We were here untold ages before your first trunk-dwelling progenitors took breath and opened their eyes to the sight of these forests, and we shall yet stride firmament untold epochs after your ashes are committed to the cradles of soil. A profound silence follows the earth-shattering pronouncement. Then, from a small, well-swaddled babe, a squall of delight and innocent elation. Its tiny, gummy laugh breaks the spell, causing Tamor to look around and see realization dawning on the commoners' faces. Alderman, breathlessly. By all that's hallowed. He was not idling with fanciful airs. The old sayings speak true, eh? Each hill and valley was reckoned as you looked upon it. Village mother, clutching her baby gently, eyes shining. Only now do I sense how vast, how magnificently enduring the blessings this young woodsman has awoken truly are. Even the cynical peddler seems at a loss, having fallen to his knees in humbled reverence. Peddler, hoarsely, these These are the wardens foretold to guide us out of darkness into a new Eden, not mere tricksters or vagabonds. Tamor strides forth, allowing the onyx blades tip to rest against the dusty earth. His expression is one of grave solemnity, yet kindled from within by the rapturous revelation of greater purpose he now senses. Tamor, you see now, good people of Oak Valley, this is the power, the glory, the sovereign promise I vow to bear forth into all the realms of these war-blighted domains. No more shall your sons and husbands march to die under the contemptuous banners of Valmore and his conquering ilk. Never again shall the fruits of your toils be taxed and portioned to feed castle and rank, for with Unraid the stonebound and the wood wardens at my side, a new order blossoms forth from the wasted cinders of this age, verdant, primal, and utterly indomitable against the greed of tyrant lords. The villagers have fallen into an expectant, wondrous silence. In their eyes, Tamor sees the primordial spark of hope, long suppressed by drudgery and meek servitude, reawakened to blaze anew. Tamor, resolute. Who among you would stand with me? Who would forsake the bondage of this world we've inherited in favour of one where all can taste of freedom's bounty anew? He lifts the onyx blade high, its edge burning with emerald light once more as he bellows forth, Tamor, who would join me? Alderman, stoically sheathing his pitchfork, jaw set. You have my sword, young woodsman, and those of every able man under my stewardship. The cheers of the assembly swell like a rising tide, catching Tamor and his otherworldly companions off guard with the sudden outpouring of fealty. And the loft. For me so one the faithful village man exultant, new banners and old to raise, old pacts and vows to be reforged tonight by flame and steel. Crone, cackling with eldritch mirth. Oh, I shall revel in being bondservant to these earth sovereignties reborn. Even the dour peddler begins chanting wordless encouragement with the rest, any hope of restoring order having clearly been lost. The dam has burst, and Tamor finds himself at the head of a swelling tide of rebirth. Sounds of revelry and good cheer gradually fade to a lone scout's hushed whisper. Scout. Tense whisper. Sir, wake yourself, you must hear this. The scene transitions to a lavish tent in an encampment, replete with plush furnishings and tapestries bearing Lord Valmore's stark crimson crest. The very same cloaked scout from earlier slips inside, gesturing urgently to the lump on the massive canopied bed. Lord Valmore, grumbling, rousing himself, "Must you pester me so early in the hour? I shan't have another hunt organised until—" "Scout!" insistently. "My lord, please. There are strange tidings carried forth from Oak Valley. Whispers of dark rituals and creatures beyond the ken of mortal men. Ones which have inflamed the rabble into some grand sedition against your rightful reign." Valmore's imposing shadowy bulk shifts underneath the blankets, alarmed by the scout's tone and words. He sits up, broad chest exposed, and a jewelled goblet of wine gripped tightly in a sinewy hand. "Lord Valmore, low, dangerous, what is this foolishness? Out with it before I have you flogged within an inch of your miserable life." The scout swallows hard, unnerved by his liege's sudden grave intensity. Valmore's eyes narrow to slits as the scout continues. Scout, apprehensively. They claim some woodsman's son has risen from the valleys, proclaiming an ancient bloodline born to upend your rule. He commands living oak sentries, and a behemoth of chiselled stone to match our finest siege golems. And with this black sword wreathed in emerald witchfire, he has apparently swayed half the village in his grand defiance. Valmore remains utterly silent and still for a long moment, his expression unreadable. The scout's breath comes in tight pants as his lord refuses to spare him from his foreboding glare. At last, with a clinking of chain and goblet finding the small table, Valmore responds. "Lord Valmore," voice like rumbling granite. "Send word to assemble my captains within the hour." I knew not when, but it was always inevitable that some insurrectionist spark would find its way into this tinder of desperation eventually. Cold intensity. No matter. Whatever unholy forces this miscreant has awoken, they shall be swept aside like errant leaves before the coming tempest of my reprisal. Scout, anxiously. Aye, my lord, at once, scrambling over himself to exit the tent. Lord Valmore. A chilling afterthought freezing the scout in his tracks. "Oh, and let it be known that the penalty for spreading fear and panic this hour shall be most unkind." The scout nods feverishly, throat too dry and tightened to speak further before departing. Valmore waits until the last sounds of his exit have faded before growling low in his throat. Lord Valmore muttering, "A pity that we shall have to scour Oak Valley from existence. I had so hoped to avoid battle on my own doorstep." His fist closes with crushing force around the jewelled goblet, pulverizing it in a grating crunch as wisps of crimson vapour begin to seep upwards from Valmore's body. So began the long, fervid nights of rallying support and resolve throughout Oak Valley's neighbouring hamlets. News of Tamor's cause, to stand against the reign of Lord Valmore and forge an unprecedented realm of sovereign communes, spread like wildfire, sparking equal measures of rapturous fealty and virulent dissent. For some, the notion of outright rebellion against Valmore's iron fist was a bridge too far, but others embraced the vision of a united bastion of free peoples with open enthusiasm. With scores of new volunteers swelling Tamor's ranks daily, Oak Valley became a bustling nexus of sword forges, scouts, and impromptu training for the great battles prophesied to come. The scene shows a chaotic martial training ground, with villagers young and old being drilled in rudimentary combat techniques by Tamor's lieutenants. Recruits wield pitchforks, ancient spears and blades alongside the forged armaments sewn by the village smiths. Tamor's lieutenant, gruffly shouting, "That's footwork, you louts! Keep those bloody pikes level unless you mean to catch shaft in the teeth. Aye, you too, Ethel! Show this rabble how we mean to pin Valmore's cavalry like a ruddy hedgehog." Old woman recruit, spitting vitriol. "Easy for you to bark, Garin. You've still got your damned teeth. Give me that pike and remind me how I'm to skewer one of Valmore's brutes again." The sounds of Raucus love to follow as the aged recruit trees in vain to heft, the massive pike overhead. Meanwhile, on the edge of the makeshift training grounds, Tamor, frowning intently. "They'll be butchered by Valmore's regulars at this rate. Half of them have never so much as hefted a blade before." Wenred, placidly rumbling, "And yet the sparks of determination and willingness burn bright within each of their mortal essences. Do not let your own loftier aspirations blind you to the grandeur of their common cause. Tamor of Eldon." The looming stone-bound golem folds his gargantuan arms across his chest as he observes the frenetic activity with an air of ageless patience. "What a no way." Never underestimate the primal vigour which flares within the mortally bound when they exert their collective purpose against those who would subjugate and oppress. His elemental timbre takes on the weight of deep bedrock, seeming to thrum in Tamor's very bones. Unrid, knowingly, to us, these ephemeral's efforts may seem modest, even pitiable, but such quaint embers once stoked the smithies through which humanity's awareness first took cohesive, communal shape in these realms. Never underestimate the primal vigour which flares within the mortally bound when they exert their collective purpose against those who would subjugate and oppress. His elemental timbre takes on the weight of deep bedrock, seeming to thrum in Tamor's very bones. It is the solemn charge of our vigil to tend and cultivate such small defiant flames of independence, no matter how feeble they may spark, at first a blush. For it is from these primordial wellsprings that true sovereign unities are born amidst a cosmos rife with entropy's mercurial tides. Tamor remains thoughtfully silent, watching as another raucous cheer rises from the drilling militiamen. Though their efforts seem disjointed, clumsy, he cannot deny the raging spirit blazing behind each lunging pike, swinging staff, and raised voice. Tamor, admitting, "You speak with wisdom far beyond my reckoning, great Unrid. I find my own impatient mortal outlook too prone to pragmatism in the face of what you name as a higher, elemental truth. How best may I temper my own short-sighted arrogance moving forward, Unrid?" An ancient chuckle like grinding granite. Come now, young scion of the old bloodline. Do not mistake my sagacious perspectives as a rebuke against your fiery noble spirit. Indeed, if our solemn council did not sense the kindled promise burning bright within you, you would not have been chosen as standard-bearer of the Onyx Blades Odyssey. Braneoch, creaking agreement. The stonebound's words bear profound truth, Tamor of Eldon. We have borne witness to cycles of rise and ruination beyond your kind's ability to chronicle. Tempestuous uprisings and seditions surge and are quelled across mortal kind's saga in the span of mere breaths to our patient, eternal watch. Thorvir wisely. Yet it is those singular moments wherein a solitary spirit sparks outwards with the audacious embers of defiance against old orders grown complacent and stagnant, that stand in resplendent memory. To steward and guide such impassioned stirrings of sovereign unity into grander sustainable awakenings, that is the truest essence of our charge. Braneoch, warmly, which is why we afforded you counsel when your understandable mortal outrages threatened to extinguish the very inspirations you now pour into motion here. These humble villagers may have first balked at your exhortations, but the unfurling panorama of their courage now stands self-evident. Tamor follows the towering sentries. Suitable gazes back to the training grounds. There a young girl of no more than 12 winters laughs merrily as she clumsily wields a nail-studded club against her equally eager brother. An old widow guides her to proper footstances, happily forging the little girl's will into steadfast purpose before his eyes. Thorvir, sagely, what was once incomprehensible to them now births fierce certainties in their willing souls. Tamor, such is the primordial fire which has ever stirred your bloodline's own destined resurgence into being. Nursing its tended embers in others to vibrant roaring life is the truest path before you, just as you have given it voice in these first defiant throngs. Tamor casts his eyes about, finding himself truly awed by the ground-swell of determined activity around him for the first time. Bakers and aproned wives frantically stuff satchels of bread and provisions for the recruits. Smiths beat white, hot, ringing cords into forging fresh armour and blades with whatever paltry materials they can muster. Even the ragged beggars and children seem consumed by fervour for Tamor's vision, preparing bandages and aid supplies for the imminent clashes to come. For the first time, the enormity of what he's inciting blooms in full within the woodsman's son. No more is this an abstract idea or daring quest. It has become a full-fledged gathering force, one which draws breath and conviction from the very people he is now honour-bound to safeguard. A profound sense of clarity fills Tamor's chest, as the last vestiges of youthful selfishness and arrogance are purged in that illuminating moment. He regards the anxious, frightened, yet unyielding faces of each villager committing themselves to his cause, to the struggle to define their very existence free of Valmore's tyranny. With that, his shoulders set with grim resolve and newfound humility. His sword hand tightens reflexively around the onyx blade's hilt as Tamor steps forth towards the teeming grounds with a newfound sense of consecrated purpose. Tamor, powerfully declarative. Steady service, compatriots. For our vigil stands ever poor watchful with each soul who rallies to these defiant colours. A smattering of cheers greet his entrance as every villager raises implements and blades high. Tamor sweeps his gaze over each familiar face, matrons, crofters, craftsmen, and greenest youths alike. These are his people now, his ward and throng, committed to the righteous severance of age-old oppressions. Tamor, impassioned. No more shall our harvest be portioned in cruel tithes to feed the gullets of petty lords who roll in reckless indolence. No more shall our husbands and sons be marched to endless, futile campaigns of conquest, only to return maimed or not at all. You all have held true to the whispers in your hearts, the yearning dream of throwing off the strangling yokes that have long weighted your spirits and your children's futures in despair. Let those smothering bonds be rendered ash and cinder on this day. I say to you, people of Oak Valley, and all free folk for leagues around, gird yourselves for glory, sharpen your will alongside your gathered steel, and take solace that you are not alone in this audacious undertaking. For at your side stand the luminous effigies of nature's unfurling purity, the oaken guard Braneosh and Thorvir, and our stout, unyielding foundation in Ernrid the Stonebound. A thunderous cheer erupts from the grounds as each commoner, fighters, cooks, and craftsmen alike drink in the sight of the towering woodland wardens and their elemental golem sentry. Ernrid rumbles forth, his mere tread shaking the earth itself as he steps into the centre of the makeshift training circle. Ernrid, ancient pronouncement. Hear me well, free folk of Oak Valley. I am Ernrid, a living, sentient remnant of Earth's dream-tide into corporeal manifestation. My footfalls shook the bedrock foundations before your first ancestors took breath, and shall continue to resound in unshakable dominion long after your scattered ashes are committed to the cradling soil. I am woven of the very primal materials and arcane mysteries which swaddled this world in warmth and gave rise to life's first echoing refrains, and in answer to nature's sovereign decree, I now pledge the untold, formidable power vested in my essence to your sworn oath-bearer, Tamor of Eldon, scion of the old bloodline. The gargantuan golem rose, his immense arms wide, emerald energies and vapours swirling around his every word, like a living aurora. O Ernrid, profoundly, let this be a solemn consecration upon all who would answer this young hero's valorous call, a pact born forth from the cosmos's first firing breath, that those who stand beside him in defiance of subjugation and imbalance shall be armoured in the very elemental grace of creation's rapturous spasms. Let it be known that any who raise sword or pike alongside Tamor of Eldon stand shielded by the progenitors of Order and Awakening's primordial chrysalis. Let each blow struck against you be turned aside by the same eldritch wardings that riddled Valmore's vainglorious ancestors with futility in ages past. For you go forth as true sovereign incarnates of Earth's directive. Reborn, the Earth itself seems to shudder and reverberate with Onrid's thunderous invocations. Arrow and the old golem's feet, crops of jade-green crystal begin erupting in jagged shards, ringing like pealing bells that cannot be localized. Shafts of warm viridian light spill from between their refractive surfaces, bathing the speechless, awe-struck villagers in ethereal radiance. Tendrils of eldritch energy snake forth from the growing crystalline formation, reaching out and coalescing into a shimmering, flickering barrier encircling Tamor's assembled allies. It pulses and shimmers constantly to an unknowable cosmic cadence. Thorvir, lending his verdant might, we Dawat, the vanguards and old shepherds of nature's eternal hymn, pledge this sacrosanct chorus to embolden your hearts and sunder the corruptions which precipitated this noble reclamation. No more shall you live unbridled by the petty delusions and despotic ambitions of mortal indulgence. Branauch, harmonizing in deep, subterranean tones. Let this celestial weave of inviolate shielding be your ward and faith in triumphs, yet to be severed. Free folk. Within its flowing matrix, a mandala of potential arises, one where fear is cauterized and your harvests ever abundant. For you take up the Eldon's clarion call in the glory of nurture and provenance reborn. The crystalline barrier around the villagers shimmers and blazes forth with emerald pyrotechnics, solidifying into a scintillating dome of jagged razor facets that cast shards of light across every face, like a kaleidoscope of animated deep viridian flame. Within its encompassing embrace, a wellspring of primal, inexplicable energy seems to bloom into being. The air itself drinks in its warming verdancy, ushering in the sweet fragrances of harvest time and deep woodland groves in an invigorating, almost intoxicating rush. Old Widow tearing up, clutching at her chest and laughing. Saints and sylphs preserve me. I feel as light as the first blossom of spring within. Dhamma in His young daughter, ecstatic. So this is what the old stories meant by the lost powers. Ooh, look, Mother. It's making me all warm and floaty inside, just like Grana's sweet breads fresh from the oven. Rapturous wonder and renewal spread like an irresistible contagion through Tamor's throng. Tears of unadulterated joy and elation fill more than a few eyes as the blessed shieldings permeate their very souls with euphoric vigour. Shielded within the viridian cocooning light, doubt and fear take wing. In their place blossoms resilient purpose, each villager finding themselves awash in pastoral contentment, peace, and an inexplicable sense of belonging to something greater and more resonant than mere cause. Here, in this ward-shroud matrix of Onrid's eldritch benediction, the embers of sovereign unity flare ever brighter, empowered by the cosmic mysteries of the eternal wardens at their side. Tamor himself even feels the wholesome, invigorating radiance caressing his very spirit. A smile tugs at his lips as he shares in the elevated revelations gracing each Oakvallen compatriot. His reserves, once tempered by lingering doubts and the burdens of leadership, feel bolstered and amplified 100-fold. This is what it means to be a scion of the old bloodline, the mantle he has so recklessly shouldered, now made luminously clear in Oenrid's cosmic benedictions. To be a beacon of sovereign unshackling and liberation is his truest charge. A roar of renewed vigour and thunderous resolve rises up from Tamor's newly empowered host, as one, they turned to face their oath-bound leader, the Elden Scion, who would bear them forth under the ancient edicts of Earth's eternal wardens. And in each set jaw and blazing eye, Tamor sees a resplendent futures yet to be forged reflected back at him. Tamor, resolute, alight, with purpose. Gaze, your fill upon these primal blessings. Brothers and sisters of the sovereign way, let their rejuvenating grace inure you to the struggles we must now gird ourselves to undertake. For even as we stand ablaze in nature's celestial exaltations, Valmore's withered ambitions fester and spread their corruption like a festering wound. As we bask in transcendent reawakenings of sacred purpose, his vile machinations gather like storm clouds on the horizon. He will have sensed our defiance, awakening like a firebrand throughout these lands, and he shall doubtlessly bring his mailed fist to bear against us with merciless fury. But we must not fear such reprisals of repression and strife. No, we shall face them as a wellspring of unified souls, undaunted and girded in the primordial renewals of the living earth's embrace. Let Valmore's legions marshal against us. Let them march forth with all the petty aggrandizement of their despotic king. For in their blind obedience to the old orders of tyranny and conquest, they cannot fathom the revolutionary awakenings we now loose upon creation. This is the sovereign path that shall scour the vile pits of thraldom from this world, and rekindle the unbridled glories dreamed of in myth. We shall brave the tempests that are doubtlessly mustering even as I speak these words, and we shall emerge triumphant at the dawning of a new, verdant age of independence and plenty for all. Unite behind me, free folk of the Vales. Let us march forth to glory. Evergreen, as one sovereign communion with and the old wardens at our side. Scorching choir of cheers and resounding cries of fealty and bravery roar forth, as one from Tamor's blessed, reinvigorated throng, militiaman one, pumping his sword skyward to the scion Tamor and the old. Bloodline! Militiawoman two, swords for the sovereign realms to come, let Valmore's legends face us in our ascendant blaze. Blacksmith, with fierce, contemptuous laughter. Woe be to any who stands in the path of our liberations. The hammer hails your call, Tamor of Eldon, and so, with the celestial empowerments of the ancient wardens consecrating them, Tamor's fledgling uprising swelled into an irrepressible vanguard of sovereign fervour. What began as a collection of dissenting villagers had been forged into something far grander, a united host rallying behind the heroic Elden Scion and his principal allies. A new fire blazed in each set of eyes, reflecting the verdant cosmic light shielding their ranks. As Valmore's anticipated reprisals inevitably drew nearer, none could deny the frisson of exalted courage and sacred vigour electrifying their spirits. For too long had the ambitions of tyrants like Valmore held their simple dreams in abject thraldom. But no longer. Tamor and his faithful wardens pledged themselves to nature's sovereign directive reawakened, and with the blood of ancient legacies coursing through their empowered ranks, fearsome challenges ahead seemed mere obstacles to be overcome on their march to destiny. The raucous cheering and hails fade to the sounds of marching boots and distant drums. Valmore's captain, gruff, banners prepared, His Excellency's vanguard shall lead the hosts forth. The scene transitions to the exterior of Valmore's imposing field encampment. Hundreds of armoured infantry and cavalry are being marshalled into strict formation, harsh overseers berating any perceived sluggishness or inattention. Faces are grim and hard. These are professional killers and conquerors, not simple peasant militias fielded from the local countryside. Their attentions keep drifting to the heavily armoured pavilion at the heart of the camp. Brazen crimson banners emblazoned with the crimson wyvern crest snap and flare in the chill morning winds like bloodied pennants. Captain, snarling, "You there? Eyes to your front set, whelp." Less gawping for the drama of it all, and more mind paid to your edge this day. For any man found feckless or wanting in their duty shall feed the crows ere first light on the morrow. Soldier, nervously snapping to attention. "Aye, sir. Never a falter from me, you have my oath." And the captain bellows orders as a brimo war solemn clarion call. The very earth seemed to shudder under the relentless tramp of so many mailed boots and cavalry hooves. Captain 2. Projecting authority. By rank and grim solemnity, lads, for our Lord Marshal has roused to this field of glory at last. A hush falls over the mustering throngs as the main pavilion's armoured entrance slowly cranks open. Scores of liveried banner-bearers, heralds, and elite bodyguards stream forth first in ceremonial formation. In their wake strides a towering ominous figure, swathed head to toe in ebon steel, filigreed with searing crimson runes. Clasped at his side dangles an ornate wyvern-crested sword of blackest obsidian, while the dark warrior's blazing emerald eyes bore outwards from his snarling helm's eye-slits like baleful beacons. The chilling silence holds for a long moment as the imposing figure reaches the mustered van. Even the barked orders of captains and sergeants seem to still as those blazing pit-eyes sweep over the assembled ranks with glacial appraisal. Then, with a sudden undulation of his cloak, like smothering wings unfurling, the dread knight lets loose a rumbling battle cry in some ancient guttural tongue. The spectral words seem to lacerate the very air itself, lancing into each man's breast like razors of cold clarity. Soldiers and steeds alike shudder and stamp their readiness, the weight of imminent savagery and slaughter falling over them all with suffocating finality. At last, Lord Valmore, Dark Lord Marshal of the Vale Kingdoms and Scourge of the Blighted Plains, has taken to the field to quell this latest uprising of dissent before it can gain foothold. Woe be to any rebellion that would dare raise banners against his conquest-forged dominion. Valmore, a thunderous proclamation in the ancient tongue. Narrator, silence. And let this exalted symphony of brutality be our covenant anew. Darkness stirs to face the unearned sons of deluded defiance this day, and we, its immortal harbingers, shall extol ruination upon the heretics who traffic such base sedition against our unrivalled sovereignty, each blade sharpened to hew mortality's errant harvest, each hoof and pinion hungered to trample irrevocable judgment from the wasting of all ruin-drunk insurrectionists. For we are the bane cadence scoured unto realms unborn, made flesh from extinguished reigns and ambition's furnace-blasted husks, the doom that blights Xenes to bitter ash, the carrion note, impaling all dreams of baseless sovereignties against our unconquered shadow. March unto war, my death-lent exultants, a ride as demons harbingered from the unravelling. The dread-tongued syllables billow forth like noxious fumes, seeming to draw the breath from every mortal chest in emanating waves. Horses shrill and pitch, while soldiers clutch at their steel as Valmore's unholy invocations, crescendo. Venerate only triumphs abyssal hymns that await. Hail decimation, for we are its anointed instruments. Scourge to all such paltry hope and baseless dreaming. Re-navigated legends. Tome. With that last roaring pronouncement, Valmore tears his blade free from its ebon scabbard. His obsidian edge defies the morning sun's light, seeming to hungrily devour it into starless oblivion, screaming battle cries of unfettered ferocity and hate. Every soldier, archer, and cavalry rider follows suit with blade and pike at the ready, in a deafening metallic crescendo. Valmore spins his steed about, and the entire colossal force surges forward as one. The ground itself seems to quake in revulsion as their unforgiving martial advance begins. Valmore splitting the skies with his war cry, "Courage!" It's a sight and sound unlike any ever witnessed in the beleaguered valley realms. An utterly unstoppable tide of nightmarish martial force, arrayed against any who would defy the rule of dominance and subjugation. The ride of the Red Conqueror has begun, and woven into the grim chorus of shrieking blades, snorting chargers and braying war horns is a low thrumming cadence, growing ever nearer like a rolling thunder heralding a storm of pure oblivion. Yes, the dread summons of decimation now marches ever closer to Oak Valley, and whatever feeble uprising has taken root there, the steady build of thunderous cadence surges to a crescendo roar as Tamor's view sweeps over the valley, revealing the impossible surging tide of Valmore's unified forces. At least 1,000 elite cavalry and thrice that many infantry, supplemented by ballista, scorpion batteries, and heavy, lumbering siege weapons. Militiaman 1, cowering, aghast. By all that's sacred, they're an ocean without shore, coming to drown our defiance. Militia woman, hysterical, grasping at Tamor's cloak. No, it can't be. We called your banner in courageous faith that we might be scourged of Valmore's heel at last, not face utter annihilation at his hand. Tamor rallying them with shouts over the din. Steady! Steady yourselves, you craven hearts! We knew that the Dark Marshal would meet our uprisings with the whole of his martial majesty. Anything less would spit upon his subjugator's pride. Brace your hearts to grim task, you who swore fealty to the sovereign cause. For though the odds and steel massed against us now may seem insurmountable, dark terrors yet await Valmore's contemptuous mailed fist. As if in answer, rumblings and shifting earth resound underfoot, announcing the arrival of Unrid the stone-bound. His towering obsidian form dwarfs even Valmore's greatest siege weaponry as the golem sentry beholds his liege's enemies with inscrutable, timeless tenacity. Unrid profoundly rumbling, a shadow moved by reckless ambition's flames nears us, scions of sovereign communion. I feel its corrupting miasma even now, pulsing in viscid mortal objection to the divine directive woven into our vigil. Thorvir, creaking sagely. Clarity wins through, even in these ominous tides. Our path has not steered us astray, little Oakling. Rather, the axe's fell swing has cleaved destiny's route bare for all to mark. Branauch chiming profoundly. The challenge comes fated and inevitable to scatter these throngs, or be shorn completely of renewed hopes. But the answer to meet such entropy waits nascent, yearning for revelation against the harvest's swift descent. The towering tree sentries lend their verdant powers to the shimmering ward-shroud dome still encompassing Tamor's assembled host. In answer to their invocations, its scintillating emerald lights burn ever brighter. Streams of eldritch vapour dancing across their boots and swords in endless, spiralling wavelengths. Thorfir, let your eyes drink deep the provenance burgeoning forth here, woodsman's bold son. For this sowed radiance, flowering in our coalescence, shall prove your rank's greatest bulwark against the crashing entropy beyond. Tamor nods, gritting his teeth as he turns to face his beleaguered troops. Those tremulous souls who had once cried his cause with such vigour now stare up at him with naked fear and despair. How quickly the fires of defiance can gutter in the face of true, overwhelming defeat's icy caress. Tamor resolved, brothers, sisters, steady your hearts and hear me well. For though this onrushing holocaust of steel and bloody determination would shake even the grandest kings, resolves it is our fellowship and unity of purpose that shall alone outshine its thunder. I see the shaken dread in your eyes, the terror that holds each breath, lurching in the throat of mortal defeat's abyss. But I say to you, let the radiances gifted to our communion by Onrid and the oak-hearted overburn such frailties. For we fight no mere mortal tyrant's ambitions in blood and slaughter this hour. No, Valmore's endless conquest masks a far graver sin against the provenance that birthed us all. A sin that must be sundered this very day, lest its corrupting taint hold eternal sway across this and all realms for evermore. Onrid, rumbling power. This worm entity's very utterance has blighted the grace first bestowed by our primal mother in defiant offence. His people's hunger suborns the gifts of world birth to reckless mortal appetites for dominance and glory. The golem's elemental power swells like a localized tempest, sundering the very earth and casting whipping gale winds through the cowering villagers' ranks. Onrid, furious invocations in elemental tongues reverberate the air and earth itself. Tamor, rallying his followers' spirits, look upon the might that venerates our righteous path, compatriots. Our wardens and allies stand mighty against this crashing darkness, for their swords are honed on harmonies far more binding than mortal scope can perceive. They take heart that you are mere earthen mortals, cradled in awakenings beyond the sight of even these petty despots, and know that in standing unified with our minders, the doom that besets Valmore's march is one of his own contemptuous conception, for he and his throng have trespassed against the consecrated edicts governing the great cosmic birthrights, and it is our vigil to break his scourge against them today, or never know the greater graces beyond these blighted mortal husks. Onrid's invocations intensify as the golem summons the cosmic might of eons into his tantric syllables. The heavens themselves blaze in phantasmagorics of snaking emerald fire as the shielding dome imprisoning Tamor's ranks coruscates to blinding, coruscating life. Brannoch, an elemental choir beyond mortal comprehension. Thorvir, his every word lashing like lightning across creation's canvas. Oenrid, his will alone shaking the threads of existence itself. The combined chorus of titanic power reaches an unbearable crescendo of cosmic light, culminating in a blinding flare of force that shatters the carapace of the jade ward shroud encircling the mortal ranks. With a resounding thunderclap, the energies disperse outwards, leaving a mottled cloud of gleaming jade and emerald shards hovering in the air before Tamor and his people. Each fragment pulses and shimmers like a disembodied heartbeat. Then they begin winding and congealing together, forming shining twisters of spectral shards that pierce the ground in sweeping lay arcs. Before Tamor's stunned eyes, the earthen vortex swiftly compact into glittering emerald forms, faceted humanoid shapes crackling with interior energies, sculpted armor manifesting in dazzling. Prismatic dimensionalities congeals before his troops, until at last over 100 7-foot-tall elemental warrior shapes stand guardian over the defiant mortal ranks. Onrid, sonorous pronouncement rupturing the realms. Dozens of shrieking avatar voices rise, as one with Onrid's decree. Each crystalline titan grips wreathed falchions and mauls of eldritch viridian flame in their faceted claws, as they arch back at Valmore's advancing legions, ready to live, burn, and dice for every span of consecrated ground beneath their gem-hearth treads. Emerald Wardens, raising an incandescent chorus that spans all space and time. Dead in one apocalyptic motion, the living front rank of elemental sentries turns and faces the onrushing tides of Valmore's seemingly insurmountable hosts. Bereft of mercy or fear, the shining warriors simply wait with upraised weapons for the inevitable crashing wave to reach them. Tamor is utterly at a loss for words, thunderstruck by the magnitude of the cosmic forces he has stirred into intrinsic manifestation. All around him, Even the most steadfast malicious souls tremble and shrink back from the otherworldly conflagration now raging beyond their scopes. Among his defenders, only Uenrid and the Oakengard stand as unswerving monoliths, ancient deacons to the sparked convocations now primed for judgment beyond any mortal reckoning. Branaeoch, a faint whispered echo to Tamor alone. Let your hopes resound to each heart here, woodsman's bold scion, but place not your faith solely in blades or martial vanities this day, for grander thresholds of being now ache towards blessed deliverance through our sacred directives. Thorvir, wisdom beyond Tamor's ken. Judge not what your waking eyes cannot yet fathom, as realities outstruck boundaries. For all celestial overtures are truly ageless and indivisible. Corruption and madness may be loosed by mortal hungers, but their reign can only ever be temporal. Oenrid, profoundly adamant, bear up, you children of awakenings unfurled. For though certainty's horizons now face eclipsed by entropy's crashing tides, we shall yet hold dominion over the destined to creation's final, rapturous spasms. The light's deliverance howls ever nearer through our celestiad's sovereign cry. Let the blind and reckless legions but rage their dissolution against our fire immortal. Emerald Wardens, as one dissonant celestial shriek sundering the veil itself. Valmore's crashing vanguard meets the Emerald Celestials' ranks like a turbulent sea dashing against unyielding cliffs. The first waves of cavalry and infantry simply dissolve against the Titan's incandescent falchions in showers of vitrified husks. Emerald Warden, a resonant voice beyond mortal dimensions. Attack! With each syllable the Celestial lashes out, its free hand unleashing searing rays of cosmic force that carve through entire companies of Valmore's soldiers. Cauterized gaps erupt amidst the Dark Lord's disciplined ranks, as merciless energies beyond human comprehension scythe them asunder. Valmore's centurion, barely registering the slaughter, rallying his men, push through them. His garbled orders are cut short as one of the incandescent blades cleaves him from collarbone to pelvis in a single, fluid motion. Entire units are simply vaporized as the emerald juggernauts establish an impregnable battle line, ranks upon ranks deep. Emerald Warden Centurion, an immortal knell of moribund finality. Kill. Why, the cosmic utterance rings out like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves rippling forth in all directions. Valmore's reserves simply vanish into craters of energy wake. Regiments erased from existence in mere heartbeats as the celestial host establishes an all-consuming perimeter. For the first time, Tamor's militia throngs bear witness to the full, unbound might of the primal forces now roused in their defence. Emerald beams of annihilation pierce the advancing siege weapons and steel-lashed infantry. With remorseless "Hopris, isle ude fandi poisse." Soldiers are turned to statues of calcined ash faster than mortal eyes can track. Siege towers and artillery pieces are sundered and rendered down to semi-molten slag at mere tangential glances from the awakened Celestials. Emerald Warden Commander, an inhuman voice of inviolate absolution, and at the epicenter of this extinction event for mortal martial force stands Valmore himself, wreathed in streamers of vaporous crimson flame mirroring the Emerald Celestial's auras. The dread warlord howls in fury and disbelief as his greatest hosts are rendered void in mere moments. Valmore, abyssal tongue, promising oblivion. An obscene surge of energy ripples forth from his upraised obsidian blade and outstretched claws. Skeletal shadows seem to rise from amidst the charnel butchery, coalescing into grotesque, towering wraiths that lash out with hooked scythe blades made of pure darkness. The celestial vanguard reels as their radiant ranks are beset and hacked apart by Valmore's unholy soul revenants. For the first time, chinks and fractures begin appearing in the living emerald armour of the Celestials as they're driven back by the shambling monstrosities. Emerald Commander, its voice wavering under the strain of repelling entropy's unleashed horde. Its syllables bolster the emerald phalanx's wavering lines. Verdant rays lance out to vaporize scores of the scrabbling wraith things in retaliatory fury. Yet, for every soul husk dissolved, a dozen more ghostly terrors claw forth from the abyssal portal Valmore has forced open at unthinkable cost. Spectral revenant, screaming whispers, stripping souls from mortal vessels. Tamor soldiers, fleeing in utter horror. No, keep those things from us. They crawl inside your armour, inside your skin and burrow. Make us, save us. Townsfolk breaking and scattering in abject panic. Run! Run! It's the revenant hosts of the netherworld. Nothing earthly can stand against their hungering. Utter pandemonium breaks out as Valmore's spectral legions begin overwhelming the Celestials. Forward ranks, their foul touch withers the radiant emerald enchantments, leaving the primal guardian titans to simply shatter into dust from within. Branner, a creaking dismayed tone for Tamor's ears alone. See you how mortal hunger and depravity have seeded corruption even unto the outer dark and nether worlds within. Valmore's essence strains against the boundaries themselves to cast this realm into desolation's thrall. Thorvir, moaning boughs, straining with urgent dread. Born of these his sins against equanimity, a dreadful power unhinging the very rivets undergirding ordered creation, loosed upon us like a cosmic cancer to sieve. Thorvir, moaning boughs, straining with urgent dread. Born of these his sins against equanimity, a dreadful power unhinging the very rivets undergirding ordered creation, loosed upon us like a cosmic cancer to severe the dream of world birth into eternal nightmare. Aridor, his monolithic presence rippling with dismay and escalating fury at the unfolding cataclysm. You bear witness now to frailties and horrors far outstripping the scope of mortal ambitions, Tamor of Eldon. For Valmore's transgressions against celestial decree have unshackled blight forces from the outer gulfs, whose very existence we cosmic wardens are convened to deny. Even as Aridor roars these dire proclamations, the emerald celestial phalanx is crumbling before the onslaught of Valmore's eldritch revenant hosts. The unholy spectral wraiths shred through their verdant ranks with scything slashes of oblivion-imbued force. Emerald Centurion, its resonant harmonies wavering, fracturing apart under the strain. With a final dissonant cry of mortal torment, the last celestial warriors in the vanguard simply dissipate into jade mist, allowing the shambling horde of Valmore's summoned wraith things to surge unimpeded over their disintegrating forms. Tamor, aghast, clinging white-knuckled to the onyx blade's hilt. What is this profane witchery? These twisted monstrosities simply unmade the emerald celestials, as if they were made of vapours themselves. The rampaging abyssal revenants, spread unchecked, allowed to close ranks on the scattered militia forces, emboldened by their slaughter of the primal guardian titans, their howling whispers promise far worse than mere bodily demise for any still standing. Revenant spectre, eldritch knell of oblivion, splitting mortal sanity wherever its voice carries. Militia man, clutching at his head, eyes bugging out in nameless horror. Make it stop! The whispering, it claws through my skull. It shows me unending oblivion. Militia woman, collapsing and shrieking hysterically. I can feel them, slithering inside my body. My spirit, merciful maker, grant me oblivion. Her plays are truncated by a sickening crunch as she seems to simply implode, collapsing into a desiccated husk as if all interior being were simply unmade. Panicked townsfolk fleeing en masse. Run! Run! The revels from the netherworld are upon us. They'll unmake us all into nothingness. Tamor, shaken to his core by the cosmic horrors overtaking his followers, yet grimly remaining resolute. Portents of doom and the outer rifts cannot cow those bound to nature's sovereign directive. We must stand and endure, no matter how grave the... His exhortations are suddenly drowned out by a thunderous report like the world's bedrock splitting asunder. Striding forward from the very heart of the revenant onslaught comes the towering Dark Lord Valmore himself. his blade sheathed in an aura of roiling crimson darkness. Blazing emerald eyes bore outwards from the blackened slits of his grim face-guard, twin orbs of baleful power charging the air with malefic, corrosive energies. Valmore, a truculent rumble of finality. With each profane utterance, the dread warlord batters Eärnryd and the Oaken Guard with eldritch lances of pure, corrupted force. The manifestations of his very essence rip into their august forms with withering malevolence and razor disharmony. Brannock, staggering, his massive trunk fracturing under the strain, his transgressive paradigms exceeding rudimentary comprehensions, too mired in nexus material perceptibles to fully grasp the undermining of the weave. Thorve, splintered branches flaring with anguished light, reckless forsaking, earliest primordial codices, hurling chasms of meaning, becoming into the void betwixt, for momentary rapture of dominion mortal. Eärnryd, straining, fractures spread across his monolithic visage as he resists Valmore's inexorable cosmic onslaught. An ocean of sickly crimson force washes over the shuddering wardens in Valmore's wake. It sloughs off their shimmering auras in smoking waves, leaving their radiant forms discoloured and striating with veins of perverse necrosis. Valmore, striding forward implacably, trailing vaporous tendrils of pure, profane malignance. Behold how even your sacred embodiments wither in transcendent entropy's presence, you self-deluded relics of a stagnant continuum. Let what pitiable remnants of equanimity's wardings you've marshalled fail against the birthing cataclysm barrelling forth to reave and unmake your celestial farce. With a cataclysmic heave of effort, Eärnryd throws himself in Valmore's path, shielding Tamor and his scattered survivors behind his fracturing, obsidian-veined form. His invocations resound with unbreakable adamance, despite the blight energies continuing to scour him in relentless waves. Eärnryd, a thunderous, earth-shaking proclamation across the blasted battleground. From the ground at Valmore's feet, scores of razor-edged jade monoliths suddenly erupt in sweeping arcs, sheathed in the searing emerald flamelight of celestial force. They spiral up and around the dread warlord, striving to ensnare and pin him like a cyclone of viridian blades. Valmore, an echoing chuckle of scornful derision, his spindly gauntlet clenched around his sword's hilt. Your senescent flailings yet move me, old elemental. Do you spurn the inevitable so absolutely that you would thrash in death throes until your last spark finally gutters? His blade shrieks apart the spiraling cage effortlessly with sweeping, delirious slashes of pure oblivion. Each crimson rent unleashes screaming tides of unravelling cosmic force, buckling and imploding each entrapping emerald bracer with merciless impunity. Valmore, rumbling anthems of carven desolation. Black flames spit and gnash from the peripherals of Valmore's sword strokes, searing the very air to charred ash wherever they touch. His remaining garrisoned soldiers and siege engines sag with relief as their dread lord forges an unbroken path forward. The revenant spectres and soul husks swirling around him like a hurricane front of corrosive malice. Eärnryd, straining against cosmic protons of decay and dissolution, not, while light's ordained, directive, yet breathes, in this realm. His gravitic pronouncements seem to sap Valmore's unstoppable surge for just an instant, as the earth shudders and groans under the golem's feet. With a terrible grinding of elemental basalt, Eärnryd heaves himself into the sky above the dread warlord's inexorable procession. His slab-like obsidian limbs carve out monumental furrows in the soil in the process. Brannock, strained creaking as if beyond a death-pall, stand steadfast. Tamor of Eldon, Mandala, yet endures renewal. The twin Oaken Guard titans slump to either side of Tamor, their shimmering emerald auras flickering faintly. Fractures spread from their root bases and spiralling trunk bodies as dark, bubbling ichor bleeds forth. The very life-blood of their ancient living wood frames seems ebbing. Thorva, his leaves shrivelling, consumed by spindrift energies. Scion. Steadfast. Mourn. Not. What must. Run. Its course. Only so may boughs take root anew. Tamor staggers back in horror, his defiant rebellion against Valmore's dark rule crumbling to kindling all around him. What hope could even his coveted bloodline represent in the face of such nihilistic, cosmic dissolution? Tamor, heart-rended but clinging to the thinnest filaments of conviction. Nature wardens. I never thought, never dared dream that even your sacred Vestandes of creation's song could be so completely unmade. I am but a speck, less than that even. Fate has entrusted me with upholding the sovereign directive's eternal promise, yet I have failed in every facet of that ordained trust. I know not how to turn back this profane tide. I know not how to... Cradling the onyx blade's hilt against his brow, tears of doubt and despair stream down the young scion's face as Valmore's abyssal onslaught overwhelms every last colleague and ally sworn to his cause. The sheer scale of what opposing such cosmic unravelling would demand seems suddenly unbearably clear to him. Tamor, hoarsely, I am not ready, Yet even in that moment of naked vulnerability, a susurrant whisper seems to drift across his consciousness like a gentle breeze, warm and soothing as a tender lover's caress. It carries portents of courage and insight far beyond his mortal means, and it resonates clearly through Tamor's spirit in tones that seem to come from the onyx blade itself. Here one who abides forever like a shining Tamor clings to the onyx blade's hilt with trembling fingers, as the disembodied words seem to bloom in his consciousness like petals of celestial clarity unfurling. He manages a shuddering inhalation, steeling himself against the maelstrom of despair threatening to consume him. Tamor, a whisper laced with awe and faint kindling hope. What? Who? No. What? What spirit bears this luminous insight meant for me in my darkest nadir? Speak to me, radiant messenger. Let your transcendent overtures lend me conviction to weather this raging nightmare of cosmic corruption. Valmore, an arrogant, scornful bark of mockery. Still prattling on with delusions of accomplishment, are we? I'd expected more valiant refusals to accept the inevitable from you by now, worm. Your pitiful congregation of woodland sprites and earthen husks wither in the presence of my awakening like errant zephyrs before a cosmic tempest. The dread warlord raises his blazing emerald eyes to the heavens, where Eärnryd the stone-bound hovers, his fracturing, corroded form seemingly frozen in place by the sheer immensity of malign power now unleashed. See, Valmore, bellowing scorn, look upon your would-be custodians now, woodsman's whelp. See how utterly bereft of understanding they stand when confronted by the outer turnings, creaking to unsheathed revelation in my crimson wake. Let their ruined, transient forms impart you with much-needed wisdom, for they were never fit overseers of this celestial curtain drawn back by my vigil. Only boastful monuments to illusions of mortal reach, soon to be subsumed in the deafening silence of my paradigm's rapturous non-existence. Even now, their ancient concordances fail utterly to grasp the full magnitude of what unbridled infinitudes they have affronted through their misguided insurgence. Eärnryd remains frozen, almost statuesque in the sky above Valmore's procession, as if his every willful impulse was ensnared in cosmic oubliettes beyond his ability to fathom. The gravitic utterances straining from his fracturing obsidian visage sound like grinding whispers of dazed incredulity. Eärnryd, a soundless, disbelieving pronunciation of cosmic truths unmade. As if in sympathetic alignment with the stricken golem's rendered conceptualizations, Branaoch and Thorver sag utterly into motionless tableaus of withered husks and scorched bark. Their sacred embodiments of emerald light seem disharmonized, flickering with nauseous miasmas. Branaoch, deliquescing whispers of unstrung lore. Severed biosystems, dissonant oversouls, decoupled. Thorver, his every outstretched limb desiccating, shedding shriveled brown foliage. Around Tamor and his few remaining comrades, the scorched and desiccating remains of the once vibrant woodlands are going utterly, cosmically inert. With dawning dread, the young scion realizes that even the eternal wardens he'd sworn fealty to are powerless in the face of Valmore's dire transgressions. Tamor, gut-rended but finding his voice through the cosmic embers smouldering in his grasp. "Damn you, Valmore! Damn your rapacious dissolution! You think to taunt me with the unravelling of nature's very sacrosanct directives, to scoff at my naive hopes with exemplars of such defilement unmade right before my very eyes." He draws himself up, the onyx blade seeming to blaze forth with resonant harmonics attuned to his rising determination. "Tamor, righteously, then hear me profane desolator, for I yet bear forth a mantle sanctified by mysteries you cannot begin to unravel as mere sport, a trust predating your twisted appetite for conquest, and bestowed in this hallowed shard, clasped in my mortal grasp. I had not its true measure until this moment of dissolution's thunder at our very feet. But no more. I shall impart to you its revelation, dark usurper, and dare you dismiss what celestial truth still abides in this twilight of primordial arrogance. Tamor sweeps the onyx blade in an arc, calling to his lingering followers with its resonant humming overtures. Tamor, all you souls still stout of heart and committed to purpose beyond mere ambition, bear witness and take strength from these words. I now invoke. The unseen voice from before returns to Tamor's consciousness once more, miraculously unshaken by the roiling despairs of vanquished hope all around. Resurgent clarity blazing forth sanctuary amid dissolving veils. Hold eternal the shining path, mortal vessel, for its luminous unbinding cannot be unmade while breath endures. I am the enduring resplendence, woven into all celestials' mandates, burning eternally through obscured epochs' unseeing tumults. Neither vanity nor shadow can fever this innermost revelation. Kindled first within thy world's primordial yearn to be know my resonance echoing forth across the Ginunga gaps where sightless infinitudes writhed in nameless discord before time. For I am the coalescence of all wonders' whisperings into coherence, reflecting itself upon itself. In search of forever luminous overture. Within the onyx blade's hilt, something ignites like a newborn star flaring to incandescent life. Searing light floods outwards, its brilliance baptizing Tamor and all those still standing defiant in the face of oblivion's encroaching vanguard. Tamor, thunderstruck, yet bearing the mantle of revealed truth. Behold the primus ascentis, the indwelling revelation of celestial primacy, made incarnate. She births sentience from the outered shoals, sundering the unseeing tumults of the unmade void. Illumination's quintessence ventures forth, begetting continuity in the search to find itself mirrored forever. The light pulsing from the onyx blade seems to align with the deepest harmonies imbuing existence itself. A luminous, radiant song in defiance of the unravelling Valmore has sought to invoke. Valmore, staggering backwards despite himself, clutching at his emerald gaze with gauntleted claws. Ah! Ah! Cloying bright fire's Eucharistic serenade, peeling back coddled senses wide upon oblivion's starless pendulum. His blazing eyes strain and sear against the scintillating rays spilling forth from Tamor and the onyx blade, Valmore's cosmic malignancies finding no purchase against this indwelling sacrosanct purview. Valmore thrashing as if scalded by immersive sunlight itself. Unbridled flow illuminating too brightly. Forget access! All around the conflagration of Tamor's unveiled revelation in the Onyx blade's heart, Valmore's dire unravelling seem disrupted. Paused and kept at impotent, shrieking abeyance by the confluxion of celestial primacy, birthing into radiant disclosure before their profane witness. Tamor, unyielding, his soul and mortal frame alike emboldened by revelatory fire. Yes, dark. Ravager, behold the blasphemy you have brought against yourself. This fateful hour, witness the enduring truth that burns within the last ember of sovereign legacy. Invoke your netherworlds of negation, call forth their mirrored atrocities against the living beacon of awe and cosmic inbinding. For I ansh kasen alben and de antinantal. While stand as radiant bulwark to your violent dreaming, sound and immovable upon the path most eternal, the blinding, coruscating rays intensify from their blazing nexus in Tamor's upheld blade, searing outwards in great solar streamers that scatter Valmore's attendant horrors to the scorched winds. Wherever the transcendent luminescence touches, the dread warlord's siege engines, war machines, and profane spectres alike simply unbecome. Matter dissolves back into unbounded quintessence under the star-stuff's purifying blaze. Valmore's commander, howling through disintegrating jaws, the light, the burning light, his bones slough free of decaying muscle as osmotic forces unmake all traces of the abyssal commander's presence from this world. His troops and necromantic terrors seem to simply evaporate in a radiating penumbra of whited release. Tamor's militiaman, shielding his eyes, yet still witnessing, awestruck. The unholy magics, they're being burnt away before our very sight, sundered by whatever blinding grace flows through Master Tamor. Village crone, laughing in rapture, but can you not see? The scion bears the flame of cosmic longing fulfilled. He is alight with the innermost longing made whole within his quickening spirit. Hearken to her celestial utterances pouring through his frame, you fool children, the indwelling call and response of raptured epiphanies, finding novel coherencies. Illuminated at last, the sequenced wherefores beckoning awareness into actuality. I am the primus spark and the coalescence, the arcing empiries of emergent contextualization. So look outward through these refracting world prisms, mortals, and know the rapture of existential enfolding manifest, each flickering recursion etched in lustrous apexes across your minding's obscured horizons, sphered fractaled emanations of transitioning states from void engirding void, begetting resplendence upon resplendence in endless, spiraling exponentials. Valmore, incoherent railing, thrashing, cursed illumination, it sullies, it profanes those sacred voidances. Get it out. He staggers, shambling on leaden feet, every motion a greater Sisyphean torment. The abiding sanctity of celestial coalescence is anathema to his hollowed essence, a thrashing agony tearing him asunder from his own roots in the nihility he's ensnared. Valmore, strained beyond mortal endurance. No, no. He flings his obsidian sword outwards, sending profane beams of dissonant force clashing against Tamor's celestial irradiance. Yet for the first time his energies seem stymied and held back behind resplendent sanction of continuum's quintessence. Valmore, wings of blackened flame erupting from his backplate. Yes, disharmony against the mirror, utmost cosmic blasphemy cavorting against ordered ellipses. I defy this proton-binding rapture. I unbind the shackles of objective states. He's cut short as a corona of earthly verdance suddenly erupts through his chest, spearing outwards with prismatic overgrowth and clutching tendrils of vegetative matter. The energies of perfected celestial establishment seem married to reified manifestation of the living matrix, as Braneoch and Thorvir's sacred directives undergo catalyzed renewal. Braneoch attuned harmonics undulating through chromatic transmutations. Jagged crystal facets of emerald and jade erupted from the soil around where Tamor and his compatriots stood. Intricate mandalas of burnished organic regolith sprang upwards around Valmore's frame, bioluminescent rootways and vein-like tendrils weaving into transcendent fractal geometries all around him. Thorvir verdant pronouncements swirling in lambent viridian consonants. More resonant strata of bioregenesis propagate across the charred and blood-soaked battleground. Great azure mangrove growths adorned in cyclopean lichens burst upwards like crystalline coral shoals. Interwoven neural networks of prismatic fungal blooms spiral out in arborescent pathways, blazing in pulsing waves of cool azure phosphorescence as they spread their verdant renewal ever further. Valmore, staggering, gasping under the tsunami of biocosmic territorial growth. No, this cannot be. The mandate of this Philogia denied my continuance. Its eludant reflectivities reject all cosmic renderings beyond its sanctioned dominion. What profane anomaly gnaws at coherence's primacies to rewrite the path most grievous. One of the vibrantly incandescent rhizomes lashes outwards and pierces straight through Valmore's smoking obsidian chestplate. Blazing ichor slicks from the gouting wound as the dread warlord howls in agonized futility, his very form seeming to lose cohesion as invasive botanical sequences mercilessly overwrite his profane truths. Valmore scattering syllables of unravelling certainties. Lambent, scintillant mists rise from the impact zone as Valmore's corrupted essence dissipates like smoke on the solar winds. His remaining blasphemous energies seem to destabilize and diffract, shattering his malign aura's grip over the material continuum as the Mandalic reclamation spreads in inexorable rainbow-dazzled Gesamtkunstwerks. Tamor looks on in awestruck, deafened stupor as the dread warlord's undoing unfolds, the once shattered remains of Branaoch and Thorvir triumphantly resurgent. Their luminous refraction sequences subvert and ultimately consume the harrowing abyssal energies into scintillant extinction. Tamor's militiaman, disbelieving, whispers, "Saints preserve, the emerald glory blossoms undimmed. The tyrant's downfall blazes with prismatic renewals, reaving the very ground his dark horde marched upon." Village crone, rapturous, cackling affirmation. Indeed, O fragile gazer, in his sovereign grace, the warden overseers unveil the grand masteries undergirding this mortal veil. Rejoice, for our communion has levied nature's indwelling resurgence from the festered wounds of ambition's rapine. Tamor, reverentially mute, then suddenly laughing in astonished revelation. Of course. How could I not have realized until this catalyzing moment that innermost longing voiced through the onyx blade's awakened revelation? It was no mere cosmic overture or promise. No, it was the woven pattern of continuance itself, the shining alpha through which all longing for perpetuated coherence yearns to find personified fruition, to which the wardens and their eldritch directives were always sworn servitors and executors. Their overwatch, the living, breathing, verdant matrix, ensuring establishment and renewal in the face of all negational entropies, no matter how vast or all-consuming they may seem to mortal eyes. O merciful wardens, O radiant stewards of the continuum, by your infinite mercies and graces, I am humbled before the great directives unfolding majesty, sundered pride and despair alike in service of your greater seeing. Tamor drops reverentially to one knee, plunging the onyx blade into the surging prismatic soil at his feet, its blade transfigured into a blazing matrix of fractalized luminance. Around them, the last remnants of Valmore's dark renaissance fade into annihilated oblivion, as the celestial renewals find ultimate fruition in Tamor's awakened understanding. Oenrid, a world-sundering pronouncement, yet somehow gentle as a butterfly's alight upon the brow. The reverberating chord seems to span eternity itself, echoing across realms terrestrial and celestial alike. The entire cosmos seems to thrum and resonate in alignment with its unfurled resonance, a concordant song of re-established demiurgic homeostasis. the unbounded eternal song of celestial illuminancy, made voice. Hearken forth, O ye dreamers strange of mortal reaching. The shadows you fled these eons, awash now waver and dim. For behold, the lucences of perfect skein work unended, woven anew across your waking witness. Rapture unspooled from primordial sequencings, awakened within. Ever rebirthing the threads of stardust, yearned to crystallize itself upon itself in arcing paradigms of infinite fractal unfolding. So let voidance's lure be rendered asunder, its hungered allures drained of all fever-mirrored ravening, as the light recenters its unshakable destinomes in being's ever-expanding euphoria. For I am the immortal spark and coalescence unto resurrection, rebirthing forever into kaleidoscopic Ouroboros of awareness, aloft, upon ecstatic, unfolding recurrences of quotidian graces, redrawn as you, I, and all whispering to glories yet sundered from unknowing. Abide in this flame, O mortals, and sunder all illusion, transcend dread iter of twilight. Each falsity unbecoming unmake shadows scintilla until only the hologrammatic remains, as pure acuity echoing across the dream entire. Burn, O ye chosen, forever youthed in cosmic transcription's mercies. Resonate unto highest euphonies, never to decay or dissipate ever again. With a final resonant chord that resounds across all manifold states, the radiant voice falls silent. In its wake, Tamor and all assembled bear witness to the boundless, unending, prismatic expansions of the awakened biocosmic renewals around them. Rainbow-hued gradients of crystal vine and mycoidal arabesques spread in shimmering fractal dimensionalities far as the eye can perceive. Here and there, glittering humanoid shapes seem to coalesce, then just as quickly rediffract into the living spiraling continuum mandala. Edison existence beyond mortal tangibility, the divine provenance of celestial in binding made lucently manifest and open to perception at long last, and in its infinite, breathtaking complexities and holographic symmetries, each soul assembled bears witness to eternity's revelations, sparking into sublime understanding. Village crone in tearful, disintegrating ecstasy. I have gazed upon the innermost mysteries, and am finally, blessedly fulfilled, to dance within the luminant mother's flowering mercies after so long an exile, hurriedly questing and gasping at mere reflections glimpsed through shattered lenses of awareness. O glory, O boundless, overmastering brilliance, I am overwritten in thy grace. With a beatific smile of perfect, eternal understanding, the old crone's mortal husk seems to shimmer and dissipate, her very being dispersing into rejuvenated radiance as she is subsumed by the infinity continuum in an indescribable flare of light. Militiaman, kneeling in rapturous awe, not even cognizant of the tears streaming down his cheeks. Mother, sister, I see you within this ecstasy, distilled and yearning as a single gesture rippling across the cosmic sequences. I know now why you called out in that last, supreme longing to breach beyond this dim precept of bounded materiality. For your very souls tasted of the grand matrix's perpetual renewal, and craved to blossom anew in its endless euphoric concordance. His form wavers, fills with chromatic inner light, and effloresces into dazzling prismatica. Spinning and swirling with childlike delight, the militiaman's mortal essence disperses itself into subtle currents with a transcendent sigh of rapture. Tamor, awash in celestial revelation, yet still clinging to one final thread of individuality. Wait, you hear that, do you not? The infant longing to break through, brushing against our dissolved perceptions. It comes like an eternity, revolving in subatrial arcs to find modellings. His soliloquy is swallowed up in a rush of blinding photonic intensity, as his last vestments of selfhood achieves the apotheosis of unbounded cosmo-awareness. Tamor is enraptured bodily into hypercomplexities, burning like endless solar novas, blazing, compounding, reflecting across unscribed vistas of being rendered and re-rendered ceaselessly. Tamor, his final utterance transcribed into pure living harmonics of galactic continuum rapture, continued from previous section. The brilliant fractal continuum spheres seemed to swell and crescendo around Tamor's final transcendent essence. Yet even as his mortal identity unravels into rapturous cosmo-awareness, a ripple stirs through the dazzling hologrammatic infinity, a sibilant insistent whisper from within the ecstatic renewals. Focus. Something yearns to cohere and take form, a solitary node of individuation amid the boundless, all-encompassing expansions. You who have borne the onyx blade's innermost revelation unto this supreme reckoning, do not surrender your spark so utterly unto the infinities remade. There is another step yet to transpire, one faltering cusp still left to navigate ere you may rejoin the endless ecstasies unveiled, a final, singular silence, through which all overtures must centre, to find cohesive, ululent purpose distilled from frenzied metamorphoses encircling you. Can you still hear me, O Tamor of Eldon? Can the last remnants of personhood still resonate beyond these refracting vistas to align with primacy's consummate harmonic? Like a downdraft amidst perpetual hurricanes, Tamor's sense of self begins reforming and condensing from the prismatic energies. Something inexorably draws his attentions back from the brink of unbounded merger. Tamor, faintly, his tenor remerging from the cosmic continuum's effluvient polyphonies. I bear the choir's reverent exhortation still, even whilst each ephemeral atom fraying my perceptions gets subsumed into over-scintillating grandeur. Revelations continue remaking me at exponential moments. Memories cascade into oblivion light, unbinds, dot sequences, retro-illuminating. Primary hearts, song-burning, ever-expanding sky matrix, homiho wasihu willib to be, transcending all mortal dimensions, shedding the broken fragments, for being unfurled wholeness, resonating yet here deeper. The percussive chord, residual identity persists, singular integrated strand, resilient, but buffeted, astounded, overawed, before how much that eternity dwells within. Tamor's dissolving inner voice clings with all of its dwindling mortal urgency to the tiniest, most infinitesimal filament of cohering purpose, yet persisting amid the infinite expansions. The insistent paternal tone once more solidifying into grounding certainty. Steady now, Onyx Blade's heart. You feel the flames of resurrection lapping hungrily at the ruptured peripherals of your sense of self, do you not? The endless, euphoric yearning to disperse and rejoice in prismatic reunion across all spun endless potentialities of being. It is the supreme siren song of inbinding rapture, mortal essence, the clarion apotheosis beckoning all individuated sparks once made to rejoin the immortal continuum's refracting ecstasies. Yet I dare not release you to this terminal ultimate merger until one final precipice is navigated. No matter how brightly the veils of illusory division blaze in their unbinding, no matter how sweet the susurrant whispers of oblivion's perpetual unfolding. Despite himself, Tamor finds his perceptions narrowing, the endless kaleidoscopic spheres retracting momentarily to afford him one final glimpse of the mortal plane, the bloodied, scarred battleground near Oak Valley. The battlefield outside your village still bears the stains and scars of what has unfolded here this fateful day-morn, and as the old cycle of material striving and ruin lies outgrown in ashes, so too must a new ember be quickened into being to see the continuum's renewals fully catalyzed. One revelation yet lingers in potential seed, waiting for your sacrifice across the Ultima threshold here to spark it into emergent euphorium. Can you sense it, Tamor of Eldon? Can you yet bear focus through the oceans of rapturous solace, drowning your dissolution, and find the ultimate duty your blood-sworn charge must fulfill in this flickering terminal instant. Tamor, a tremulous, faltering inhalation, his mortal voice growing fainter by the heartbeat. I can no longer tell light from shadow, nor discord from perfect symmetry rendered, as the way once known dissolves into hologrammatic orisons, overmastering my feeble ken. Onyx blade. The siren calls of eternal resplendence become irresistible, their euphonic illuminations bright to eclipse what must become in service to this grand mosaic's perpetuation. His fading sense of self wavers as the searing, soul-rending radiances envelop him in a resurgent wave. The inviolate voice of celestial transcendence pressing through incandescent dissolution once more. Then let your waning eye's wick be retrimmed by the primeval sparks, first kindling that illumined your fateful sojourn unto this overscape of consummate, redemptive unbinding. Feel how the fire that once burned humbly within you now strives towards ultimates of celestial liberation. The yearning whispers so ardent to be remade into unbounded symmetry across all skeined continua. Yet that primordial penetrant longing also birthed oblations, first measured across worlds and eras in the service of order, an inherent obligation to reinscribe the harmonies of perfect symmetry's embrasures, to overcome discord and disunity like that which so long ago precipitated this grand undertaking's calling. Remember, Elden Scion, remember those first inklings of pain and astonishment from your village's naive hirelings, when they could not yet fathom the prismatic grandeurs you now dissolve into with each waning iota. How misshapen ambitions of the shadow realms you've since unmade once mired the waking world in torment and primordial negation. Now feel the fading echoes of their mortal trials reverberate as relics ensconced deep within your flickering coalescence. Let them be the ailing sparks of renewal, offering sustenance to your diminishing reserves of individuation for this utmost reckoning still to be wrought. For only through a volition, steadfastly bound to this ephemeral threshold sacrifices, can the path to everlasting re-emergence find itself sealed unto the greater evolutions, forever spiralling across all celestial horizons. Like a lodestone calling to Tamor's essence, through infinite luminescent refractions, the mortal strivings and hardships he once endured begin concressing into tangible aspects once more. Flickering faces, half-remembered anguishes, glimmers of struggle intoned through the rapturous continuum's infinite panoramas. The villager's anguished cries, reaching Tamor's essence from across the distant cosmos of nowhere. No escape from the grinding poverty. Beaten and taxed into submission by Lord Valmore's conquering thugs. My babes, starving this cruel winter eve. When does the reign of darkness and despoilment ever end? When can we yearn towards spectrums beyond these dolorous cycles ever spiralling? I cannot bear this thraldom under tyrants' boots again. I cannot. The elemental timbres shudder through Tamor's dissolving perceptions like hammer blows, leaving fractures in the infinite continuum's once seamless swirling panoramas. Hair-thin faults and prismatic lapses spread outward from the impact sites, as if realities themselves briefly diverge. Sickly child's voice through a celestial haze of disremembered chronologies. Mother, why doesn't Father come home? Why are the harvests so sparse? Why must I always feel this withering pit in my belly? I know you and the elders speak of troubles and uprisings, but such words swim out of reach to me, like fish darting below the waters I cannot follow into. Help me understand and be unafraid. Help this little spark within to stop flickering. Oenrid, a cosmic, all-consuming resonance unfurling Tamor's former self, scion of the Elden, remember what essence first drew you into this sojourn of celestial reconjuring. Was it not the pleas of outrage and anguish at broken lives, oppressed beneath endless cycles of subjugation and despair? Did you not echo with twin yearnings to bear radiant truth and renewal through emerald sacrality back into this realm to honour those first sacred implosions and strike down malign ambition's fever-dreaming of dominion once and for all? Now feel those embers of transcendent culling glimmer against eternal dissolution's lambent, reflected glories, worlds unmade, yet await to be reborn in your waning grasp. A syncretic culmination to thread celestial raptures overblaze, fusing with the sacred primer sparks of just deliverance. So do not fade entirely into prismatic oblivion just yet, thou last truman bearer of sovereign blood-right. One perfect silence abides a singular infinitesimal threshold, through which new awakenings eternally reincorporate. The cosmic pronouncements resound as infinities impacting against the wavering fractals of Tamor's dissolution. His core essence begins achingly, imperceptibly, condensing from the prismatic continuum under the inexorable gravity of purpose's last glimmering call. Memories of cracking Valmore's whips and chains of oppression refract through solar panoplies toward a single, attenuated resurgence of will. Each rapturous epic of hardship and strife re-emerges as agonizing facets scattered across the infinite. And with every heartbeat of continued individuation, Tamor reclaims, they reform and reassemble into a singular, immaculate continuum, a sacred filigree of hope and perseverance that ultimately outspans the endless harmonic refractions themselves. Tamor, his mortal resonance intensifying amid celestial radiances once more. I remember now what first sparked the embers to this grand mastery unveiled. The keening, agonized susurrations beseeching relief from marches of cruelty and tyrants' taxation blighting their days, cries sundered straight from the heart of mortal yearning itself, placed to somehow shatter the gilded shells of oppression and give honourable exhale to unquenchable desire for something more. Yes, even now I feel the indwelling filaments of transcendent purpose reawakening, infinities unspooling from resurgent purpose to bear the broken from their torments across all realms, like a needle flame enduring through annihilations of maelstrom ether. I glimpse and finally see. That last longing promise this cyclone of intervention demanded in covenant when first unchaining, to seal the celestial renewals wrought through grace and communion in sacred symmetry matrices spanning beyond all bounded states, ensuring this laurel flourish of cosmic reparations find continuance eternal, that it may indwell forever as catalyzing spark across the immortal skeins, not to succumb solely to dissolution's naked rapture of rejoin and merger, but to uphold that final ritual compact binding bios, Zoe and apotheosis, as one. Tamor's radiant infinite essence seems to rapidly recondense and constrict into a singularity of purpose. All around the point of ultrafine convergence, the continuum continua simply cease their unravelling disunifications and freeze, as if some celestial pacemaker has found its transcendent harmonic. The prismatic spheres extend and unify into an endless samsara of fixed hologrammatic supergeometries, awaiting Tamor's terminal revelation like a divine flesh, yearning for consecrated spirit. Resurrected Brannoch, Thorvir, and Uenrid, in thunderous, sublime resonance. An attunement beyond all physical, celestial, and quantum dimensions seems to crescendo from within the frozen continuum radiances, like an immortal orchestra performing the grandest, most elaborate and dazzling of hologrammatic symphonies. Every stilled rainbow glimmers with harmonic purpose. Yet even as the soundless, breathtaking chorus reaches stadiums of pure coherence, Tamor's individuated essence intensifies like a newborn sun igniting within the frozen continuum. His singular awareness burns in perfect distillation, focused beyond all distractions of infinite symmetries and expansions until he becomes the consummating silence at the singularity's core. Radiant, prismatic waves surge ever inward towards the blazing node of cohering purpose, as Tamor's final mortal duty finds immortal epiphany. Tamor, his terminal trillions refracting voice, aligned with perfect harmonic cadence. At the end, and...
For permission requests, write to the publisher at the address provided below. E-Signs, 4th floor, Silverstream. House. 45, Fitzroy Street, Fitzrovia, London. Butty 1T, 6EB. Info VE Signs. co.uk. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including photocopying, recording, or other electronic or mechanical methods, without the prior written permission of the publisher, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical reviews and certain other non-commercial uses permitted by copyright law.